Hi YouTube! I really love PowerApps and the way it makes it possible to transform my ideas into great apps. When I started building PowerApps in the beginning of 2018, I noticed that finding good sources on smart building solutions for PowerApps was very hard. That's why I started making videos of my own, to share the things I learned when working with this great tool to the rest of the community. If you enjoy my video, then subscribe to my channel, so you will get notice when I post other videos. And of course like the video so other people who are trying to learn PowerApps will be able to find them. In case you don't know me, my name is Paul Kroon, and now let's go on to PowerApps to learn some stuff. Hi guys, welcome back to the fifth tutorial on our mobile app template, and today we're gonna build num keys. Basically because when we have a number field now on these days on Android and iOS, we get a normal keyboard, and basically on iOS you don't have the numbers above. In Android you have, but still it doesn't work really well. So instead of using the Android or iOS keyboard, we want to make a num keyboard in PowerApps. So we're gonna do that today, and this is basically how it's gonna look like. So we have the order number, we have a number, and we can add numbers here. We have nice buttons, we can erase something, we can go back without changing anything, we can start over again, and we can submit our value. So basically this is gonna be everything we are working on. So let's go to PowerApps and start over and build this solution. Okay, we are going to start by building our num keys layer. So we gotta, let's say, make a background where we put the controls later in. So let's do that. So let's reorder and bring the NK keys to the front and say the visibility has to go to true. Let's then add a label, and let's rename the label to nkey layer.1. And we're gonna do something with this key. So first go to the right and set the X and the Y to 0 and the text to nothing. Then go left to the top and say the height has to be the same as the parent height. And the width, for the width counts the same. It's got to be the same as the parents. Now I put in a layer because the grouping now has a solid background, but later on maybe they're gonna change this, because with grouping I think a solid background isn't normally the case, because when it's true then you can't select controls behind it. So maybe they're gonna change it, so I put in a layer. And I know the layer gonna be solid, and I'm gonna set it to false if I want them to be able to hit a control behind this group. So I have a layer, and let's for now make the fill white so we don't see the controls behind. Later we're gonna set this to transparent again, so it's gonna be a layer over the controls, and we see the backend. We see our layers and our user forms and whatever we are using on that moment. So now we can copy this one and put in the layer. So we have the background set to the parent height, and let's here change the fill, and let's set it equal to the header.1.fill. So we have the same fill as our header. So we have basically the same design as the rest of our app is gonna be, and I think that's gonna be nice. Now this control shouldn't be the same as the parent. No, this should have an other height, and let's put the height to 70. I think 70 is a nice height for the controls later on, and this is gonna be our first layer. So let's rename this to NK layer 1.1, and this first layer gonna contain our menu. So the submit button to close the user form, to erase numbers from our string we gonna add to our box. So let's call it Enka layer, and let's position it. It's on the bottom, parent height of our screen. And let's say Enka 1.1.height. So it's gonna be at the bottom, and here later on, as I said, gonna be our menu controls. Now we're gonna put a layer on top, and it's gonna be divided in 3 sections. So the first section is for example, for mathematics things. The middle section is gonna be for our buttons, and the right section is also gonna be for our mathematical things. And we ain't gonna do anything with the 2 sections on the side, but I want to add them so I can change this easily in the future if I want to. So let's first copy this part, and now we have one screen for the middle. Let's change to Y, and let's do the parent height. Let's change that for our first box, Y parameter. So it's going to be above our first layer. Now let's say that the Y shouldn't be, or the height shouldn't be the same as our back layer, but let's reference that. Height. But we have to do that times 4. Why times 4? Because we have 4 layers with num keys. So we have the 1 to 3, we have the 4 to 7, etc. So we need 4 layers, 4 levels inside it box with controls. But we're gonna do that later. So let's say here that when we have our layer, it shouldn't be like the header fill, but it should be the same as the opposite, so the color. So we get a white background for our controls later. And when we put the 3 controls in, they're gonna have a boarding, so we see the controls very nicely. Let's rename this box to our layer 2 and 1, and this is gonna be our controls, or the part where we gonna put our keys in. Let's rename this to L2 layer .1. Now let's copy this one, and this is gonna be the right area where we gonna be able to put mathematics if we want to have an advanced keyboard. So let's first rename this, and let's call this 2A. Let's do the same for this, a layer .1. And for now, let's give this a fill of light blue or something, so we can later on see what is happening. So we have some sections with different colors, so you can see what basically is going on. Then let's go to the width. It's the parent width, but I don't want the parent width. Let's say I want to divide it by 6. So when you look at it, we have 2 side layers. They're gonna be 1/6 of the parent. So the middle is gonna be 4/6. So the controls for the number buttons gonna be a little bit bigger than the controls for the mathematics. And maybe this is a little bit too big, so let's put it to 7 divided by 7. So we got a nice side screen. Now we could leave this, but let's just say let's connect it to our middle, so to this box. And let's do the same for our height. And then not divided by 4. So this is gonna be connected to the layer 2 in the middle. Only it's gonna be a layer 1. So let's copy this, paste it again, and say rename. Oh, now you see we have the wrong box connected. So let's copy this one and paste a good one. Yes. So we're gonna rename this, and this is gonna be B, for example. B.1. And the same for this. And this is basically the same as the left one. The only difference is that it's gonna be at the right side of our screen. So let's take the width minus the control itself. And you see I have to reference the control all the time, and I said earlier in the video, it should be very nice when we just could say me or self or whatever name they want to give it, with reference to the control itself. So when we copy this and we say parent minus the control dot width, we can copy it to every box and just align the box to the right with that formula, and not reference the name of the control, because it's a little bit strange, but okay, we have to deal with it for now. So now we have the layer 2 middle, we have the A and the B. Now you see this is too big for our screen for this moment. So let's do something with the width, and we have the parent width. Let's do that minus the 2A1 width and minus the NKL2B width. So now it's smaller, but we don't want to be it smaller all the time. We only want to have it smaller, and let's copy this part. When it's visible. And basically gonna do the same for the other box. Change the A to B, and we're done. So now it's gonna be smaller when the boxes are visible, and larger and the whole screen when the boxes are not there. And in just one moment we're gonna set this to not visible, and then you're gonna see what happens. Then we have to do something with the Y also, but let's take this one, because we only have to think of the left one. When the left one is visible, we want the box to go a little bit to the right, and it's the X parameter, and let's just paste this in. So when it's visible, the X is the width of this box, and if it's not visible, it's gonna be just 0. And I think this is fine for now. Now let's see what we have. We have the back layer, it's gonna be our menus. Here it's gonna be our num keys. There it is gonna be our mathematics functions, and maybe a C or whatever we want to put there. And we're not gonna see this in this tutorial, but I'm gonna show you how this could work for you. And now I want to add something to the top. And this is gonna be a box with, let's say, a label, and a box where we can show what our number is on a specific moment. So let's first rename this, and it's gonna be our third layer. Let's rename this layer also nkl3.layer, and we have some consistency with the naming like this. And this is gonna be the same color as our header again. Now let's give it the right position. So the height has to be taken off, but this has to be your nkl2.y position. So it's gonna be above all our num keys and controls. Now let's say that our color, because we want to put a text here in this layer, we want to add a text, so this color, we want to set to the header one.color. And the text, let's say we first want to do some text, and later on we're gonna make this a variable. And you're gonna show why. So the text is now on the left, but let's put it to the center and not in the middle, but on the top. Let's give it on the top a little bit more padding, and let's make it a 24 and a semi-bold. So we have our text. Now let's make this height equal to our Enka layer 1 dot height, but let's do it times 2. So we have a bigger box. Okay, now let's insert a label. And this label is gonna be also a different text later on, but on this moment this is fine. And let's first go to the fill and set this to the header y.color, so the opposite again. And let's go to the color and set that to the header y.fill. So we get the opposite of the background of the back layer beneath it. Let's rename this to NKL3 and let's call it key value .1. And later on our variable, which is here, we're gonna call k value, like, or nk value or something like this. Let's do it just key value. It's okay. Let's go to the y and say this should be parent dot height minus nkl 3 k value dot height and minus 20 or something. Can we do 20? Let's do 15. So when we look at it, it's nicely underneath our text. And I think that's nice. Close this. This we have to make a little bit smaller because I need a button at the side to empty this. So let's go to the width and say we want to have parent.width and then times 0.6. I think this is enough. Then go to the x and say parent.width divided by 2 minus 3 k value width divided by 2. So it's gonna be right in the middle. And also here the mathematic rules agree also here, so the division is for the minus, but basically normally I do like this. So it's easier to read when I come back later. So it's the same, but now it's in the middle. So and now we have our basic structure for our label to show what the number is on a special location. The text, this text is going to be the same as our box we want to fill. So the label of our input field. Here in the middle is going to be our num keys, and on the side we can make an advanced screen with some mathematics in there if we want to. So now let's go to the first group, and here we're gonna add some icons. So we're gonna have a check icon We want to say it's okay. We want to have a, let's say, a erase icon. And now we can choose for a cancel button to close it or a down button. And the problem with down is that we it's a little bit the same as alright, but I think this is fine for now. And maybe the more button, and maybe later we gonna set it not visible, because we ain't gonna do that in this tutorial. But I'm gonna show you what this gonna be. So let's change this. Let's say NKL1 submit. Wait, not one. Let's rename the second one to NKL1 dot erase. That one. NKL1 dot exit. That one, or underscore one. And the last one to NKL1 advanced. That one. Now let's take all the buttons and first say the Y has to be 0. Oh, the Y has to be 0. Let's take the height. Let's find the height and set it to the parent. Now we take the width and we're gonna set it to the parent.width divided by 3 or 4, sorry. And then deselect it and take the advanced button and say the advanced button has to be at 0. The exit button should be NKL start width, and copy this part. We go to the erase button, to the X. It's gonna be the width and the NKL1 underscore exit dot width. Let's copy this part and do the last one. And we shouldn't do minus, we should do plus. I was thinking, why is the other one not on the position I want it to be? But I just made a mistake, a small mistake. Let's take the width here. Go to this one and go to the X. Let's take this part, copy this. And now they're not on the right place, so let's do Control S and take the right one. It's gonna be the erase and just put plus here. So now they're at their right spot, but I don't like the icons like this, so big. So let's select them all and do the width to 15. When we then run our app, we have nice menu buttons to do something on. Now I think the submit should have another color, and that could always be a dark green. So when we are agreed, we say dark green. When we want to deselect one number of our sequence or our number standing here, we can erase one, we can close the box, and we can have our side buttons. I think this is nice. So let's first close our box. And we go to the onSelect statement. And here we're gonna do an update context. And what do we have? We have the n keys show, let's call it like that. And let's say we want to set it to 0. Then we want to have an n key title. And we want to set it to a empty string. And we want to have the nk value. And let's do a little bit the same with the underscore things. And we want to set it to 0. 0. And close our update context. And the nk value shouldn't be a 0, should it be a string. Because with the string, we can make a comma separated or a point separated number, so a decimal. And when we have a number, it's not possible to put a point in or the comma in at the place where we want the point or the comma. So that's why we need a text to do these things and not a number in the variable we're going to use for this. Okay, let's do this and let's run F5 and click this for the first time. Now our box is still visible. And let's now say we have to set a visibility. And we're gonna set it to UF show. And let's say it should be larger than 0. And then it's fine. So let's now go to our first layer, like here. And let's insert an icon. And let's look for a calculator, just for fun. Do we have a calculator here somewhere? No calculator, they say just currency. It doesn't matter much. Let's do a update context here. And let's say we want to nk show to be 1, nk title to be simple test, and let's okay, this is a text, so we should make this a text, and the nk value is let's say 120. Okay, let's run our app and we see our number keys and we can close it. We see it and we can close it. Okay, let's show it. And let's say here the text, this shouldn't be a text. This should be our nk value. And because this is going to be a number, let's put it to the right. Now this text, it ain't going to be a text also. But let's go to the text and say this is going to be your nk title. So we have our sample text. So later on when we have a input box or label over the input box, we just say update context and we take the label of our label control text and we put that in. So then it's going to be the same name as the text. So we see, okay, we are busy with a sample text, and when we have a sample text 2 or an input text 2, we say, hey, the input text we are busy with now, and we know what we are doing. Okay, this works. So we can and let's copy this one and let's show how this works. That's simple text or number text test and 100. So now we have the number text 100 and we have our sample test 100. So we see this works. Now let's do the erase button on select statement. And here we basically gonna erase just one number of our nk value. And we gonna do that by taking the left nk value, and we want to have the len nk value, and the len is just saying how much characters is this value, and we take one character of that. So it's basically that simple to do this. And that's basically what we're gonna do. So let's run this, and we can say take one off. Close it and take one off. Now let's put this 12 back to our number. So we have 120 and we want this to be 12 later on. So let's do that. And now we gonna go to the onSelect statement of the shift. And now basically you're gonna see the trick with how to be able to use this number key on a number of boxes. And we're gonna use the nk show for this and a switch statement. And basically, let's make this bigger so you can see what I'm doing. Let's say we have 1 and we want to update context. And let's do a new one. And this is not there, so I have to do something else first. Let's do that. Let's say that here we have to change a little bit. Let's say we have update context. And here say open close. We have our field value 1. And we're gonna set this to 120. And then we're gonna do nk show, and here we're gonna do text f value 1 of course. So what we're doing here, normally we would take another variable for this, or we set the variable when we start the screen or the layer in my example. And we set this variable to a box, so we see the box, and let's do that also so you can see what is happening. So let's put this one, insert a label, and say this should be the field value 1. Let's take this part, copy this and put it to our other button, and say here nk show to 2 and the value also to 2. And let's say the 2 has to be 1050. Let's copy this part and paste it. Put it here and say this should be 2. So now when we run it, when we hit it and go back, we get 120, and if we hit the other one, we get 1050. But we want to see this change in just one moment. So let's go here. We can take one off, and now we can go here to the switch statement, and we do a on 1 and update context to the f value 1, and we're gonna set nk value to it. And because this is a text and the f value is a number, we have to say this should be a value. And this should be 2. We do basically the same, only for f value. 2, it's gonna be value nk value. So this is the way to, based on the switch statement, just say we want to set the nk value to a other variable. And this is gonna be a value and this is gonna be a text. Now, let's at the bottom say we want to select our nkl1 exit button. And you can do this or you can do it like this. So at the end we're gonna switch, we're gonna update our value and then gonna go select it. We're not done here, but later on we're gonna do some error handling in this part, but we're gonna do that later, so it comes. So we had 120, we take 1 off and we enter, and this is gonna be 12. If we take the other one, take 2 off, it's gonna be 10. So we are able to change the numbers in our variable. So we now basically have changed the numbers in 2 different fields. It's as simple as that. So let's go here. And let's now do the visibility on those 2. Let's select them all. Both. Let's select this one and this one. And here, say the visibility of this one should be nk show. Should be, for example, 2. Let's say the 2 is the advanced. We can do 5, 6. When we say we only want to see the left one, say, oh, okay, it has to be bigger than 6, for example, and say the left one should be bigger than 6, and or an in statement or whatever. And we can also say this should be. Let's say we want to show this one, and really advanced we want to show this one. We can say on the group, of course, on the group. We did something different. What? Yeah, the nk showed 2, and we could say this should be in 2, for example, and 3. And this one should be in 3. So here again we have the possibility to say when it's we click this one, it's going to be 2. When we click this again, it's going to be 3. We're going to show this one, and if you click this again, it's going to be back to 1. So let's do that. Let's do that just for fun. Let's say if an if statement or a switch statement. Let's take the switch again. You could do an if here also, but when we are carrying along and go further and have more menus, maybe it's nice to just put an extra line to this and be done with it. So we're thinking of the future. So let's say when it's 1, we're gonna set it to 2. Let's copy this part, put a comma behind it, and change the things we want to change. When it's 2, we're gonna set it to 3, and copy this again. And let's do a little bit different. Let's say we have a default, and the default is always to set it to 1. So if it's 1, we're gonna set it to 2, 2, 3, and all the rest, we're gonna set it to 1. Back. And we can do this, I just think. So let's make another, because the nk show, it's gonna have a lot of values we can put there. So let's do it like, oh, let's do it like this. Switch anchor show. It's 1. And let's say when it's blank, we're gonna do the same as here, because then we don't have to set it in advanced. We can just leave it open and it's gonna work. Now let's take this, go to this one and to this one, and now try if it works. So when we click once, we see the left one. When we click second, we see the second one. When we click away, they are away. So this is the way to make an advanced num keys, because here we can do all our mathematics function or the rest we want to show. But as I said, we ain't gonna do this, so let's keep it empty. So now basically our buttons are almost ready, except for the things we have to do here to make this have some validation of any kind. But we're gonna do that later. First, we're gonna do our num keys here. And we can do, I think, 2 things. We can just put the buttons in here, or we can make an extra group. And I think I will do that. Just make an extra group. Let's take this group and copy it here and delete all the controls from here. So now basically I have a empty group, and let's say this is the keys layer 1.1, and here we gonna say the y has to be just 0. So it's gonna be in the top, and the height is gonna be the same as nk l1.1.height. Now let's copy this one and put a second one in, a third one in, and a fourth one in. Oh. Take the first one, num keys 1.1, and go to the y parameter and say this should be KL 1.1 height. Let's do the third one. Let's rename this 3.1. Go to the height. Okay, 2 height. Oh, we don't need this. It's not the height, it's the y we have to care about. And now doing this like this, but we can also do a multiply. Just do like times 2. That will work also. Then we can copy this one, rename it to 4.1. Go to the y parameter and say this has to be times 3. So let's reorder them. So they are nicely ordered. We could also call this key layer 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. So later on it's more clear what this let's just call this 0. So let's first take the first one and let's insert a button here. Let's say the width of this button has to be the parent dot width divided by 3, because we're gonna have 3 buttons. Let's rename this button to key1 dot or key.1 for now. Let's say the X has to be at 0 and we want the fill to be transparent. I thought so that it was a little bit too wide, so I think what did I do wrong? And I did it wrong. So here at the width, the parent dot width divided by 3 should be the width we using. So now let's have an unselect statement, and let's take this one here, copy this, go to our button and say we have to update contact the NK value, and we want to have the NK value and the k.1 dot text. And this is gonna work. Let's have the button text to 1. We can't see the text yet because we have to change the color to the header dot 1 dot fill. And to be totally good, we can do the color here. So it will adjust with our theme if we update our theme. And now let's see if this works. So let's click the one and we get the one with it. And we have a nice border, but I don't want that to be with a radius. I want that to be 0. Okay, now we have 1. Let's paste the second and the third. Let's reorder this and send to the back. And send to the back. Now the 2 has to be 2. And the X parameter has to be K. One dot width. And the N has to have a X parameter of this plus K2 dot width. Width. Two dot width. Okay, this has to be go to 3. And when it's normally we can add our numbers 1, 2, 3 and erase them again. Now let's copy this 3 items, go to the next box and paste them. And you see it's 4, 5 and 6. And the 6 should be a 4. The 5 should be 5 and the 4 should be a 6. So let's go here, Copy this again and paste them here. And the 9 is the 7. So this is a little bit strange that it's copying it like this, but okay, this is fine because we're gonna rename these buttons in just one moment. And then the list, we're gonna do this one 0, 0. This is gonna be 1, 0, and this is gonna be a point or a comma. Let's do a comma because I'm from Europe, so we have commas here. And okay, now let's rename our buttons. So rename 1.1. You can just as in Excel use the F2 key and arrow keys to navigate. Let's see, this should be the 4, I think. Yes, that's the 4. 5, 1. Oh. 6, 1. 7, 1. 8_1. And we are doing this because when we now copy this num key to the second screen, it's just gonna be _2. So when we have the second screen, it's easy to find the right key, basically. 0.1 and k, comma, dot 1. So now let's see if it works. Now we have our nice number keys and we can say to 50 and erase it and go to 30. 69, erase. Now I want to have a extra button to erase all, so let's make that. And let's just insert a icon for that, a cancel icon. Let's cut this and go to our this box, put it right beside our number keys with the same height and the same width. And give it a padding of 15. And let's call this NK layer 3 resets.1. And this basically should say update context, NK value is empty. So basically we are empty in one click. And I think this is good like this. Let's see if we can make this text to have some format. And let me see if I have the formatting somewhere, because I know I used it before. Okay, we first have to make this a value, and we have to use substitute nk value, and then take the comma off and add a point. So close this. Then we need to have a comma and here a point. And let's do 0, 0 here. And because I'm in the Netherlands, I'm gonna take NL. So this should work, I think. So when it's empty, when we start, we see that double 0 behind it. When we do a comma, 5, 0, we have the 5, 0. When we take one off and do 5, 5, we have this. Let's make the thousands. Okay, this works fine, like this. So we have a nice sequence which we can add to our box. Now let's do that here. We have here the update context value 1. Let's see if it will run properly. So you see we have our value here. But I see we don't have our decimals, and that's because here we have to do the replace also. So replace or substitute, sorry. And of course, when you use a point, and when you are in like America, you use a point and you don't have to do this. Then it would be fine to do this without. Okay, let's see if this works. So we have 0.50, enter, we have 0.5 here. So now our variable is updated. Okay, 253.96. We have a 0.96 in our variable. So this is nice. Now I think this works as we want to. Now let's say this, we ain't gonna use this on this moment. So let's say the visibility of this is false. And check this one and do the width. And then if nkl one.advanced.visible, then parent dot width divided by 3, and else parents did divided by 3. Now let's do the x. Also if well, then we want to, and else it should be there, and probably do the same here. So take this and put it here also, and the same here. Okay, I think we are done now. We only have to do one thing, and that's here on the select statement. we have to validate. So let's say if is numeric nk value, and also here we should take the substitute, because else it will never be numeric and then it's gonna fail. And if so, do this part. Sometimes irritating that you can't normally tap here. And I'll also do a notify. Let's say input is not a valid decimal, and give the user a warning. Now let's close the if statement, and it should be good like this, I think. So let's do an extra comma, 2 comma, input is not valid, a valid decimal. And maybe we should say please input a correct decimal. So, and then people should do it again. And let's see if this works. This will work. So I think now we are totally ready with our user form. And let's now go to our orders, order lines, and we have something here. Let's say if we click on this one, we're gonna update context nk show, and we're gonna say this was UF000, so let's say 11, then nk show, our title is label 5.text. Do we want more? Of course, the value is in this case label 6.text. And we want to have a text, so we have a text now. So let's see if this works. Let's click on this. You see the value is taken over. Let's this on select statement is probably alright. Only here we should add an extra line. No, 11 when it's 11. Say this should be value 3. And it's 0.50. Now this isn't changing because here we have a real value, but normally on this label we would put as a text R N see fields. Value free. And of course we can say here also text value comma point or comma point 00 NL. And this should make it right, but I think this is only necessary when you have a more decimal number. And of course you can maybe put in a variable with hiding this when you have a positive number. And let's just do that because we're busy also. Let's say on select, and here we want to put in the text and say decimals. Let's say this should be false, or maybe on false I do like 0. And let's say that here we want this visibility is set to NK. Decimal is 1. So basically we don't have an opportunity to put in commas when it's not visible here. So we can write it back to our variable. Okay, I think this is all I have to show you about num keys. And thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video, where I first will clean a little bit up and then I will show you what we're gonna do next. Okay, I hope to see you there. Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of this video. Again, if you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to my channel and get a notice on other videos I'll be posting. And of course, like and share the video, so other people who want to learn PowerApps will be able to find it and use it in their quest. My name is Paul Kroon, and I hope you learned something today. For now, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.